This was my first GDC, and I might have overbooked myself on getting way too many appointments, but it was a really fun week. Since GDC is an industry-specific event but still showcases some incredible games in progress, I wanted to highlight the best things I saw at GDC to put on your radar. Okay, so this first thing isn't a video game, but it's a video game controller, so it still counts. I met with Derek Dixon from Retro Shooter at the GDC Play area to test out his light guns, specifically his new model, the Reaper. When I got to his booth, there was a light crowd watching as a few people took turns on the light guns to shoot a few targets on screen.
Tell me about your company, Retro Shooter.
Yeah, Retro Shooter is our brand. We build light guns, and we're working with indie developers to build new light gun games. We've been selling light guns for just over 2 years now. We started with a small, simple gun, and now we've had a submachine gun and a more arcade-style light gun is what we've just come out with. Oh yeah, so our first gun that we developed, it's a little bit lighter than our Reapers, and the kids really like that because they can play for a lot longer without their shoulders getting sore. The older generation, they love playing with the Reapers because it's it's got more of an arcade feel to it. But yeah, kids love it because there's nothing like it. And they never grew up with it. You know, we had the Zapper and we had the Silence, the Super Scope from Super Nintendo. So we had that, and it was really cool tech. And the younger kids and the younger generation, even like 20-year-olds, they're like, wow, I can't believe that this even works.
Yeah.
You know, they've heard about it. Oh my gosh, Duck Hunt was a thing, but they've never been able to play it at home because nobody has a CRT TV anymore.
No.
Who's gonna store a TV that's, a Jumbotron?
Yeah.
So yeah, with the ability to play on smaller screens, we can actually use projectors as well. So we've had somebody play on a golf simulator. They set it up in their bar, and they had like a 8x8 screen that they were playing on. So yeah, it's really interesting who's started playing it.
The game on the two screens wasn't something I'd seen before, and Derek explained that he had been working with indie developers to create arcade shooters, on-rail games, and more by offering them dev packs. They also sell a console that houses light gun-specific games. The Retro Shooter console is essentially a mini PC with 20 new light gun minigames. This is meant to be a plug-and-play console specifically designated to work seamlessly with the Retro Shooter light guns. The console doesn't let you emulate any retro games, but luckily the light guns work just fine on PC.
Yeah, so tell me, how does it work exactly? Because, you're so used to, like, in an arcade, you're like, yeah, I know that whole setup works, the machine was built for it. So how does it work at home? Like, how do you get this to react to the guns?
So we have IR camera inside the muzzle of our gun, and it reads, there's 4 IR emitters on the screen, and when you first power on the gun, you calibrate the gun to the screen. That's all you really have to do. After that, it works as a mouse and keyboard or a joystick in certain emulators, and on our console, it's just plug and play. That's how they work on the modern screens. So you do need the 4 IR sensors around the screen. But you can play in 4:3 mode. I know that the classic guys really want to play 4:3. So you can change the calibration on the fly if you're going from a game that was originally built in 4:3 to 16:9. Yeah.
This is obviously very cool tech that people haven't been able to have at home. So tell me, what was the inspiration behind creating these guns?
Yeah, well, it's been decades since we've been able to play light guns at home. I remember as a kid being able to play, Duck Hunt and having to go to the arcade and dropping so much money on quarters. So to be able to do that at home with your kids and with your family and friends, that's the experience we wanted to bring back.
I see this, SMG gun. Is this one of your newer ones?
This is actually our second model. We ran a limited run of those guns for our audience. We never advertised it. We just pushed it out to our audience and our client base for fun. And it was really taken very well. So we're looking at possibly building another one or a pump shotgun or something of that sort in the future. More guns to come. Yeah.
No, the pump shotgun would be really cool. I feel like that tactile feeling would be really great.
I asked if the Retro Shooter light guns work with older retro games, like my favorite one, House of the Dead, and Derek confirmed the light gun works just as a controller. Once hooked up to your PC, the light gun will be recognized by controller, and you can use it in emulators quite easily. Unfortunately, there weren't any emulated games available at GDC, but for a good reason. I looked back at the screens to see the game being played at the booth. It was titled Grand Shooter. It was extremely reminiscent of the classic rail shooter arcade games from back in the day, and even had similarly cheesy storylines to follow. So I decided to ask further about the retro shooter games available.
Are there any retro shooters that do work with your guns here?
Right now we have one indie developer that's built a game for our guns. We've built some games in-house, and we're, like I said, looking for more developers to build more light gun games. We have an audience that wants gun games because they haven't had that for over a decade. And we're doing a contest for new games for next GDC. The game that wins the contest is going to be on the display booth for next GDC.
Is that what you did for this one, or no?
No, actually, it's an interesting story for this guy. He's from Brazil, and he saw our light guns being demoed on a YouTube video, and he reached out to us because we don't ship to South America, and he said, hey, I can't get the guns, but they'd be perfect for my light gun game. And so we made an exception and sent him a kit, and then he wrote me back, this works perfect, and he wanted to come to GDC, and I said, wow, let's do it. So that's really how we got together.
Is there any thought of like talking to other developers who may have had like, you know, arcade games to try and bring that to like a modern age with your consoles?
Yeah, absolutely. There's been some remakes of House of the Dead. There was one that was just released, which it's too bad they didn't offer light gun support for it. So we're gonna knock on their door, you know, maybe kick it down, and tell them that we've got some awesome light guns that people would love to play their game with. There's obviously Virtua Cop that we would love to remake as well, and possibly license other classics.
What are some of the railgun shooters that you've played as a kid that kind of made you want this kit at home?
Oh my gosh, there were so many. I mean, obviously the first one would have been Duck Hunt because that was my age group. And then a lot of, not so much at home. My mom was kind of against video games, so we were kicked outside to play all the time. But I would be at the arcade playing. Silent Scope was probably my favorite. And then, you know, like House of the Dead, Carnival, just the classics that were all over the place, you know. That's what we could play. So
yeah, House of the Dead is definitely the right answer. I love that one. Where can people find out more about this product?
Yeah, if you're interested in knowing about developing for the product, that would be on our website. And then if you're interested in purchasing, once again, on our website at retroshooter.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
A few hours after I met with Retro Shooter, I had an Xbox preview event for several games that would be releasing soon, including Hotel Barcelona, Revenge of the Savage Planet, To a T, Towerborn, Clair Obscura Expedition 33, Wheel World, and more. I'm saving Clair Obscura Expedition 33 for a later full preview, but the other big standout to me in that event was Wheel World. Wheel World was announced at the 2023 Annapurna Interactive Showcase and was featured in the Xbox Partner Preview in October last year. I missed the earlier demo when it was available at Steam Next Fest, but luckily I was able to get hands-on time with the extended demo at the event. I sat down to play and found the story follows Kat, a cyclist who has to save Wheel World one race at a time. You're kept company by a skull spirit, appropriately named Scully, who guides you through the world to collect their legendary parts for your bike and improve your cycling skills. The preview event was filling up pretty quickly with people wanting to play all the demos, so I sat down with the developers in a booth to get some more details on the whole creation process. Also, it turns out the co-founders Mark Essen and Christy Norander of their independent studio Meshoff are a couple and create video games together. Talk about a power couple.
I have to ask, are you both cyclists?
Mark more than me.
Yeah, I like riding bikes. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. I don't race bikes or anything like you do in the game, but yeah, I love bikes and I love working on them, and I have for years. So yeah.
Okay, so was it your idea to make this into a video game?
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to make a game about bikes, about my relationship with bikes, also about like fantasies about having a bike and, you know, traveling around and doing these races like you do in this game. At the time that we started this project, there were no bike racing games that I could find. There were about like, you know, moment-to-moment arcade-style, exciting racing gameplay. Everything that we saw was a simulation of being the owner of a Tour de France team or something, where you're like thinking about strategy and players, but not about like the actual act of riding a bike. So we wanted to make a game that felt like you were riding a bike and gave you that freedom and let you explore a big, dense world.
Okay, so you started by telling me that y'all are a couple,
Yeah.
and that is really cool. I think that's very unique in this space. Like,
Yeah.
so did you develop your own studio together? Like,
We did, yeah. Go ahead.
Mark and I both met. We were both in games. I think I was out of grad school writing about games, and then I started working in a social game company.
okay,
And then I ended up working at USC at the Game Innovation Lab, and then Mark was working as an indie game developer on his own, and we kind of had some not overlapping skill sets, and
Okay.
we decided to kind of put our skills together. Right?
Yeah, so the first game we released together was Nidhogg 1, which is this like...
oh my God, that
yeah.
was you guys?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh God, that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, and we've tried to... So we had...
Mark was working on that for a long time.
Yeah.
And then we came together to kind of put that out in the world
Yeah.
in a more commercial way.
And then, yeah, I had another project that was kind of like half done, Fly Wrench, that we worked together to finish. And then tried to scale up a little bit. We got brought on an artist, Toby Dixon, for Nidhogg 2, and released that. And then this was like a big jump up, moving to 3D. We have a team of, including us, about 10 people, working, you know, not with the full team, but working since 2020 on this project.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a huge lift, and
Yeah.
I'm super proud of what we've been able to do,
Yeah.
which we could not have done with just the two of us.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So what made you choose Xbox what made you choose to work with Xbox?
Well, we always planned on coming out on Xbox, and it was great to find a way to partner with them with Games Pass. You know, Nidhogg 2 came out on Xbox. It's an easy platform to develop for, so yeah, we're happy to support it. Yeah.
That's amazing. So obviously game development is a passion that you guys share. Is there anything else, like, you're a big cycler, but is there something that you guys enjoy doing together?
He won't come to my yoga classes, so we're not going to do a yoga game anytime soon.
Oh.
But he and our son have been skateboarding a lot together. So there might be, maybe that'll show up in a future game project.
Yeah, that could be cool.
I've started to collaborate with my 6-year-old, who's, I think, a genius at game design.
Okay.
And yeah, we're working on a skateboarding game right now. Just casually.
That's cool. I do love the system of, like, when you enter the city that you're supposed to, like, after the intro island. It's very cool because you see the statues and it's like, oh, I have to defeat these bosses. What made you decide to go with, like, the boss format with this game?
Yeah, I mean, this game has been through a lot of iterations of like trying to figure out how to structure. We kind of knew the content that we wanted to have. Like, we wanted to have these races, we wanted to have this space in between them where you're exploring and you can kind of get distracted by stuff. But yeah, I think they just came out naturally of like, okay, we have these sections that we've sort of created as different biomes. Like, there's the farmlands, the vineyards, this preserved forest area in the city, and it kind of makes sense for like those to feel cohesive or like feel like they can stand on their own and like they have an identity. So we wanted to give them each like a boss that kind of owned that area. The story kind of fell out of the mechanics of like how you progress. And so it was, yeah.
The little Damon. So it's does he have a name?
Scully. Yeah.
Oh, just Scully. Okay. Is he the last of his kind out there?
It's not like he's the only one there ever was of these
Oh, wow.
bikes. So
Okay.
there's a whole there's a bunch of lore in the game that you can kind of piece together that, you know,
Tease out.
You tease
Yeah.
out, but it's not, most of it's not thrown in your face.
Okay.
But there is lore to discover about the origins of Wheel World and the ancestors of Scully and Cat and everyone. And you can learn more about this place that's not quite like Earth, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's like a warped version of Earth if it was only the Tour de France or something.
Yeah, and the currency is in the form of rep.
the currency is rep, but then there's also this organization, Cyclorp, who give out these like script like coupons that they use.
Right,
That's
yeah.
like the actual currency you use to buy and sell. Well, buy bike parts. So yeah, you get rep and coupons depending on what you're doing. You get rep from like people when you beat them. You also get coupons for participating in Cyclorp's incentive their coupon campaigns.
It's so funny when you play and you start. It's like, oh, you don't have enough rep. It made me think of like, oh, I don't have enough followers to like get into gate locked by that, which is very cool.
I don't know if you know much about like Strava, the social network for like running and cycling, and like the kudos system.
Oh my god.
Which is basically the same as every other social network, but yeah, we wanted to have our own take on that. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I used Strava for a while.
For running or biking? Or?
For running, yeah. And then I was like, well, I hate running, so I stopped that. But it was very cool. Is there a way to see like all the different ways, like different paths you've taken, like as a grid?
Oh, like
kind of like on Strava,
like
how you can
map?
see like,
No, we didn't think about that.
DLC.
Oh.
But there are Strava-like challenges that you can
yeah.
uncover, like secret routes. That once you do them, it's like it acknowledges that you've done some secret route.
Yeah.
And like just this idea of local legends, we kind of have that. We have people that are like doing their one route, and you can intercept them and race them.
Oh yeah.
Kind of ad hoc.
Yeah. Yeah, it is very cool how you can just like ring your bell and then challenge someone to a race immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
Yeah.
Why did you go with this aesthetic? Because it's your first time going 3D, right?
Yeah. Well, we wanted to do something that would stand out and that we could do with a small art team. So, I guess it's like within the realm of cel shaded. What can we do that differentiates it from every other cel shaded game? So we went pretty hard on just the line rendering style. I don't know, it's hard to notice sometimes, but our lines are not uniform. They're like, they vary in thickness, and depending on how close things are, we have different line styles, and we color the lines. And we do all this stuff it's partially inspired by different comics. It's inspired by early Tour de France posters. I guess that's where I came from. I don't know.
That's cool. Yeah, I did like that not everything is uniform. It kind of gives you that feel of independence, which is very cool.
There's no straight lines really in the game.
Yeah.
Everything's a little bit off. All the buildings,
Yeah, I do like that. And it's so funny, when I was exploring that city specifically, I couldn't tell if things were up, because you look up and it just keeps going, which is very, very cool. Yeah, and I'm not very good at racing games, but for some reason, this and Forza Horizon really like work in my brain.
Okay.
And someone actually made the comparison that this is like Forza Horizon, but on bikes.
Yeah. We played a lot of Forza. We played a lot of Forza Horizon, Burnout Paradise. Vibe-wise, Breath of the Wild was a big inspiration.
Yeah.
We wanted to have a deep system that didn't have that many attributes to mess with. So there's 7 bike parts you can switch out. Each bike part can contribute to 4 different stats, and then there's like additional perks that can do, other weird stuff depending.
Yeah, it's very funny when we jump to like, is this mid game?
Kind of late.
This is pretty late.
Okay. Yeah, seeing the boost meter go up, and I was like, oh my god, thank god.
Yeah, I can do like half the screen by the end of the game. That's just boost meter.
Okay. All right, I'm very excited. It's really good, and I'm not one to like racing games like this, but the handling is very easy to learn. So I feel like y'all did a really good job of like,
Thank you.
yeah, you did a really good job of like letting beginner players feel really good about like the first race that you do. I was like, oh man, well I'm gonna lose this, but like you really learn around the second bend, which is so great. So yeah, well, thank you for speaking with
Thanks
me.
so much.
Yeah. Also, are you going to make a Scully plushie? Because I would absolutely buy
That is a really, really good idea.
If the Scully plushie becomes a thing, I'll definitely be buying it right away. Luckily, we don't have to wait too much longer before we get to dive into Wheel World, since it's set to release this summer on PS5, PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and PC. The next game that I demoed was a definite hard turn from the cute, soft world of Wheel World. I visited Fearsoft's booth in the Brazil Games area to preview Kriophobia. As the name suggests, Kriophobia is set in an unknown underground military complex in Russia during the winter. You play as Anna, a geophysicist who brings her science team with her to investigate a string of anomalies in that region by exploring the underground complex. As these things usually go, Anna and her group encounter devastating events that trap them underground, facing the horrors that await them deeper in the bunkers. The art style of Kriophobia was what interested me in the first place, but the story was a quick second in piquing my interest. Gameplay handled a lot like the old Resident Evil games with the fixed camera and tank controls. The team at Fearsoft is fairly small, and they mostly create educational games in Brazil, which is a hard turn from what Kriophobia seems to be. Along with getting hands-on time with the demo, I was also able to chat with the lead game designer and programmer, Luigi Refati of Fearsoft.
Tell me about yourself and your game. First of all, how do I pronounce it?
Luigi. Oh, the game. It's Kriophobia.
Okay, yes. So tell me about your video game studio.
Okay, so we're Fearsoft, a studio from Brasilia, Brazil. And right now we have like 13 people working with us.
Wow, okay.
But in Kriophobia right now we have about 4 people working because we work in a lot of projects. Like our main thing is like outsourcing and doing games for educational games and marketing games for other companies.
Wow.
But we have this game which is like our own IP, and we have been working on it for a very long time now.
Okay.
We started developing Kriophobia in 2013. Like 12 years ago, but we had to stop and restart developing the game like a lot of times because of funding and money and stuff like that and other projects. So I would say the game has had like 4 years of development with kind of 6 to 8 people. On average.
Okay, so you make a lot of educational games. This is obviously very different.
Very non-educational, yeah.
Yeah. So what inspired this game? Because it's kind of scary, right? Like it's a bit of a horror game.
We're kind of crazy on that department because we do a lot of different games. Like the game we're doing after this game will be like a very party game, like battle arena game, and we like to do very different games. But back in the day, when we thought let's do a horror game, it was like a game jam. We made an internal game jam and we made a 2D horror game with a lot of ideas that were like used in Kriophobia.
Okay.
We like to call it like the Kriophobia version 0.
Yeah.
Because it was like a 2D game with a lot of really nice ideas. And at some point someone suggested that can we replicate the same pre-rendered tech that Resident Evil used, and then we made a proof of concept of that, and it was awesome.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And we said, yeah, this is something we want to do.
Okay, yeah, I think I do see some of that when I think she was walking through some of the darker areas, and I could see a little bit of fog. It was very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the idea was born from a game jam. Do you do those very often?
We used to do a lot of those like back in the day, but nowadays we don't have like a lot of time. Like in Brasilia has a lot of game jams, but sometimes we have like 1 or 2 people from the studio going to those, but usually we don't do those anymore.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So you are the lead developer, right?
I'm the lead game designer.
Lead game designer.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what is something that you think is like extremely unique about Kriophobia that you're very excited for players to get their hands on?
I have to say the visual style. Like our visual style is really unique because we really take the pre-render idea and we make it better. So, like pre-renders, they usually don't have like shadows and lighting and all that stuff, and we don't just have those things, but we like improve them. Like we have custom shadows and custom lighting, and it looks really nice in the end result. As I was just telling someone here, like when we started developing Kriophobia, like in pre-production, I would repeat myself saying, I want every shot from the game to be able to be a wallpaper. So if you take a print at any time, it should be a nice wallpaper. It should be nice to look at. And I think we kind of got there. Like I think our game is really nice. Looks really nice.
Yeah, and you're not biased or anything at all.
Nah, bias me? Nah.
Yeah, I think the very first thing was I got an email asking if I wanted to get a look at this, and the very first thing I noticed was the art style, right? So a lot of games, I think, especially like indie games, they very much rely on getting very stylized games, right?
Yeah.
So how closely did you work with your artists? Because I'm assuming, how many artists do you have for this?
Yeah, that would be surprising.
Okay.
Most of the game was done with one artist, one 2D artist. Like we have one 3D artist and one 2D artist.
Okay, so 2 total, like overall.
2 total artists.
Wow. Okay.
And like 4 programmers. Because this thing is like way harder to code than it is to paint. Although it doesn't look like that, it's way harder to code than it's to paint. But every single camera you see there is like a 2D painting that is like handmade.
Oh, wow.
Like
okay.
it's digital, but it's handmade. And because the game itself has almost no textures at all. Everything is painted in the camera, in a single texture.
That's really smart.
And that's a lot of work. I think the game has like 100 something of those cameras. And it's a lot of 2D work, but like spread in the years.
Yeah, because you said since 2013?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So has it gone through many like big changes, or have you kind of stayed the course and it's just taken that long since your team is very small?
Yeah, we started the game in 2013.
Yeah.
And we had like the vision of the game changed in 14 to 15 because the game was originally a mobile game. We were planning on making like a survival horror point and click game. That was our original concept. And people like that came to we showcased the game in some events in Brazil, and people would just like come to our booth and say, you should do this like for controller, like for Steam and for consoles. I want to play like an original classic Silent Hill style game. And then we had like a very hard time to like decide if we wanted to switch direction, but in the end we switched it, and then we rebooted the project in 2014, but we had no funding at that time, so we worked like for a year and a half on the game with a smaller team, and then we ran out of money and we stopped the project. And in 2019, we finally got like funding, like enough funding to make the game work.
Yeah.
And then we had to decide again, like, are we going to reuse what we did in 15 or not? And then most of the things we didn't reuse. We mostly rebooted the game all over again, like from the ground. Like tech, we reused a lot of tech, but like gameplay and cameras and level design and everything was like scratched up, and we made it all over again. We actually have more things from the original version than from the 2014 version.
Wow, okay. So it seems like, I mean, it wasn't just all continuous development then? Like,
no, it was not. It was a very turbulent development.
Yeah, which, I mean, as an independent studio, I assume it's very difficult to, keep projects. Yeah. What engine does this run on?
Unity.
Unity, okay.
Yeah, we started the game in Unity 4, if I'm not mistaken, and now we are at 21 something, like 21 LTS.
Wow, yeah, okay. So what inspired this specific setting? I mean, like, obviously you're a fan of Silent Hill and Resident Evil.
Yeah, actually that's a very good question because we are Brazilians, and our game is set in Russia.
That's what I was wondering. Because I was like, oh, Brazil games, but this does not look Brazilian.
Yeah, it's a game like about the cold, which we don't have in Russia. Yeah. Like we in a bunker that we also don't have that in Brazil. So it's just
like you wanting to be in the
place? I think we're just crazy, in the end. I think we're just crazy. But I don't know why. I can't even say why. I really don't remember. But the idea was always that Anna was a war orphan from Russia, and we really liked the. I think everything started because we wanted the game to be in a closed space, so like a military facility, underground military facility, and then we started to research where those places were and where in the world would we find those, and then Russia just like started coming up on the list.
Yeah.
Like they have a lot of really big abandoned bunkers, and the game has like a little bit of pseudoscience and pseudo-history. So like Russia was famous for doing like military research and experiments and stuff like that, and we said, oh, we could like use that a little bit as a background in the game, and I think it progressed from there. But in the end we had to study a lot. I think we have like 100 hours of footage of people inside underground bunkers somewhere in our references.
Wow, okay, that's actually really cool. That's kind of like if you, Stalker 2, how they actually went to the exclusion zone. That's very much like hands-on research.
Yeah, we don't have money for that,
No,
so we have to watch people doing that.
No, but that's great because you are using resources that are available for this project, which is great. So yeah, it was very funny though. It was like snow and cold. What, Brazil? Okay, that's very different, but that's very cool. Yeah, you're just offering this fantasy, right, for players.
Yeah.
I also saw the difficulty levels, how they're called different like varying temperatures.
Yeah,
right?
it's like cold, hypothermia, and absolute zero.
Yeah, that's awful. That sounds awful. Do you think that fans of like casual horror fans will find this approachable too? Like it's not too scary?
Yeah, the game is like more survival and less horror.
Okay.
But the mechanics are kind of harder, I think, because the best way to play the game is with tank controls, which is very like hardcore, old school survival horror players. But we also have camera relative controls with like helpers, we call them helpers, that help you like keep your direction when cameras change. So we want the game to be approachable for like a broader audience, yeah.
Okay, good. That's good for me. Also, knowing it's more survival based, I love survival stuff, so that's perfect.
Nice.
Yes.
And the game is like really story focused. So like you start the game, the idea is you get caught by the visuals, but as you play, you start getting like involved in the story. And the story, I think it's the best the game has to offer is the story. Like I didn't answer this in your first question.
Yeah.
Because it's harder to see. Like I can't convince you that a story is good. You have to play our game.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. When I saw the trailer on Steam, it kind of the movement and everything kind of reminded me of like Strange, the Telltale games. Was that a bit of inspiration, like for the narrative and everything?
For the second version of the game, the game was more inspired in those kinds of games, like more in like narrative games, like pure narrative games. But as we rebooted the game and we put Herman as our director, he switched away from that. Like he said, like we don't want to make a narrative game, we want to make a survival horror game. And I'm the narrative game guy. Like I really love those games. And he started like holding me on that sense, which was good for the game. Like I think that was the right direction to go.
Okay, yeah. Are there going to be decisions you can make in the game that change the ending?
Yeah, we have 4 endings.
Wow.
Maybe with a secret 5th ending.
Oh.
But we have like 4 endings, and some things you do may make those endings available or not when you get to the end of the game.
Okay, that's awesome.
And our endings are really nice.
Yeah.
I have to say. Or really bad.
Oh yeah.
Or really bad.
Oh true, yeah. Again, not biased at all.
Not biased at all.
Where can people find your game, and when can they expect it to come out?
So we want to launch it by October on Steam. It's already available for wishlisting, and this year, like 2025, we're going to showcase the game in a lot of places, different places in Brazil and out of Brazil. Maybe Tokyo Game Show, maybe Gamescom Europe. So yeah.
Cool, amazing. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
These were probably my top 3 favorite experiences, just being able to talk to these developers and ask them about their projects and what exactly drives their creativity with these things. There are so many other projects that were there at GDC, and some are under embargo, some I am currently working on a bigger preview for, but I hope you enjoyed this. This was such a great experience, and if you're curious about any of these developers and their projects, please go ahead and follow them, and I'll see you in the next episode.